Grand Rising. Catcalling. Um, I think many of us are familiar with that term, um, and it's not gender specific. Um, we have an idea, I think, that catcalling is might have an image of a woman passing by a construction site, and the guys start yelling down to her, um, you know, rude, inappropriate things, or passively aggressively flirtatious or complimentary. It's not a pleasant experience for the woman or the person who's being catcalled. And I wanted to touch on this because this was something, again, going back to it not being gender specific, picking up or people projecting energy at us that is harassing. It's not welcomed flirtation. It's not reciprocal. It's not encouraged. Um, when I first started picking up on it, I recall I was in a I was in a recovery program, and I'm a recovered alcoholic, past tense, recovered. Um, I don't classify myself as an alcoholic anymore. I am recovered. But in that program, I picked up on a lot of negative feminine energy coming at me, and it was not reciprocal. I wasn't welcoming it. I wasn't asking for it. I was there in that situation to get sober. It was therapy for me. Who wants to go to, like, for example, who would want to go to a therapist or a counselor? You tell somebody your deepest, darkest secrets, and they take that information, manipulate it, and use it against you uh, to flirt with you. and and that is a common misconception, and I can speak firsthand about it because I've experienced it. This idea of catcalling, and and again, it's a different situation when there's mutual attraction. Let's say if it's mutually reciprocal, that's consent. I'm talking about the catcalling aspect of it when it's not, um, when there is no consent, when you're forcing your will, you're attempting to force your will on another human being. And my heart goes out, my heart does, it goes out to my sisters, my nieces, um, women that I've encountered over the course of my life who have expressed situations like that to me, and how deeply uncomfortable that is. It's fucking creepy, man. It's creepy. You know, I want to. I want to feel safe. The things that perhaps in a general way as men we take for granted. Walking, going to the grocery store, um, getting out of your car, walking to the shop. You don't want to have people coming up to you. You don't want people making rude or vulgar comments, even passively aggressively complimentary. Hey, nice, whatever. You don't. I'm telling you. And where I'm going with this is I found for in I've worked in hospitals and healthcare facilities, and I continue to do that. I've basically had two general careers. I was a I've been in healthcare in numerous positions, different types of positions, healthcare, hospitals, a counselor, um, and I was like in construction, maintenance, um, and stuff like that. So I've seen both polarities of this, you know, from the male point of view and from the female point of view. I've seen both. And when you think of a hospital, you think, oh, there's a lot of doctors and a lot of nurses. There's a lot of feminine energy in a hospital or a healthcare facility. A lot of nurses. We typically, I'm not saying there aren't male nurses, there's plenty of male nurses, but it's a predominantly feminine, at least seemingly. Um, there's a lot of feminine energy, and I've been in construction, maintenance, things of that nature. It's predominantly a male field. I don't place, you know, um, but there are people, you know, there's male nurses and there's female construction workers, but I think we can follow the stream that I'm going with. And in more recent days, very recent days, I have found myself the extreme target, much in the same way that women might have a stalker at work. Um, you know, and it doesn't seem to matter how many times you say no. It doesn't matter how many times you express that this is not, I'm not interested in this. This is not for me. They keep escalating. Um, and now, where the situation, I have to be very discerning and very particular about the words I use, because I have a contract that I will not disclose. But this is a work type situation where I find myself around this person, and I need to disclose this. Outside, there are certain types of physical medical problems that can cause impulsive sexual behavior. Okay, believe it or not, one of them is a urinary tract infection. It affects the mind, especially if it's gone past, if it's progressed to a certain point. Um, a urinary tract infection can have a sexually impulsive reaction in the mind, um, because of the infection. Okay? As one might think of somebody having a high fever and being delirious, a UTI can cause those symptoms. It affects the brain. An infection affects the brain. Another example of this, and I believe it's in the right frontal cortex of the brain. Certain people with that have had strokes, um, or head injuries, uh, and I believe it is the right frontal cortex of the brain. If I think, don't quote me on that, but I'm pretty sure. Um, but they can lose their impulse control. Their somebody who's had a stroke or a head injury, they can lose that sexual impulse control, and they can become hypersexual with no boundaries. It's so taking those two things out of the equation, I'm talking about somebody who has their wherewithal about them. They are making a conscious choice to be sexually flirtatious, aggressive, inappropriate, vulgar. Um, and I have experienced this as a male from females. And in more recent days, um, very recent days, and it has gotten to the point where the person who is, shall we say, being sexually aggressive toward me has shared their feelings with the collective group of other females. And whenever I encounter these other females, they feel the need to inform me of what this person's intent is about me, how they feel about me, what they think about me, what they're fantasizing about me. And these other females in this collective think that's fucking hilarious. Oh, now you get to see what it's like. And they're projecting all their feminine wounding onto me, a guy. I ain't having it anymore. And I finally, I'm like, ladies, and I was very kind, but I stood my ground and I was firm. And I was like, I said, ladies, first of all, I want to apologize for all the guys who have ever catcalled you, because I've experienced this in my life through my sobriety and through my employment, working in healthcare, working with dirty old ladies, dirty old, just like you have worked with dirty old men who can't keep their hands to themselves, or they can't, they can't seem to keep their mouth shut and not express vulgarities or cop a feel or whatever. And I did. I was, I'm like, because they had just started to tell me so and so was making comments about you again. And I'm like, I don't want to hear about it. This isn't funny. Just like it's not funny for you. And I am sorry about that. But it wasn't me. I didn't do that to you. Please don't do that to me. The golden rule. But it is equally disturbing to me as a guy. Like their perspective was, I should be flattered. I should be flattered that this person is projecting all this vulgarity and inappropriateness at, in my direction or at my expense, and that I should find this humor, I should find this humorous or flattering in some way. I mean, from my perspective, this person is deeply wounded and has some very distorted perceptions about what is and isn't appropriate, and what is and isn't loving and compassionate and fair, equanimous between two human beings, male, female, 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 male, male. It's completely inappropriate. It's completely inappropriate. And I did my very best to express to the collective of females who were telling me that, oh, you should be flattered, or you should think this is funny, or see what we've been dealing with as women. I'm sorry. I'm sorry that happens. Because I've experienced that myself. I've experienced it myself over the course of my life. And, but it's something that happens. It's not just females. It doesn't, perhaps men are programmed to respond to it in a different way, but it's no less hurtful. It's no less hurtful when somebody is treating. I mean, they're projecting their pain, their distortion into the ether. But I mean, there is a certain aspect too. What other people think and feel is none of my business. I am not in control with whatever people choose to do with their thoughts and their feelings. And if they have sexually or vulgar, inappropriate thoughts, feelings, and fantasies about me, I don't want to know about it. I'm not interested. Unless I'm, let's say, in a loving, committed relationship with somebody, and we're having There's nothing wrong with that. But when it's just this cat calling, and I'm gonna use, just, and I was gonna say like, a pig, a pig, but that's even disrespectful to the pig, because humans have free will, but it's the encouragement that this collective of females, through their interactions with this person, it was clear to me that they weren't they weren't they were perpetuating this fantasy for this aggressively sexual or sexually aggressive woman who was projecting at me. And through their conversations and what they expressed to me, it was obvious, you're perpetuating this, you know. And I gave them an example of a flip situation of where, you know what, the next time I see X, Y, and Z happening with a male doing that to you, I'm going to encourage them to continue doing what they're doing. Would that be acceptable to you? Or do you want me as a man to step in and tell that man, and I've had to do that numerous times, what you're doing is not appropriate. She is your daughter, she is your wife, she is worthy and deserving of safety and respect, and what you're doing is not appropriate. And as a man, I am uncomfortable. As a fellow man, I am uncomfortable with the way that you're treating this woman. And it definitely gave them, it was there was a lot of information in a very short period of time with this collective of women that I experienced, and having this dialogue to try to express to them that, look, it's not fucking funny. It's not funny when it happens to you at the hands of a man. It's not funny to me or acceptable to me as a man when a woman's doing that to me. It's gross. It's frightening. It's inappropriate. So, I had to do something about that because it's been ongoing, progressing, and escalating. So I went to somebody in a position of authority, who I could speak to and express my concerns about this, about one, not feeling safe around this one particular person who's projecting all this sexual energy at me, inappropriate, vulgar sexuality, non-reciprocal. I don't, um, and we'll see how it works out. We'll see how it works out. But this would be, given different circumstances, if this doesn't resolve, this would be cause and reason for me to leave that place, to leave that environment entirely, and find another environment to um, sow my seeds. And again, I have to be very careful about the words and stuff I say, because I do have a contract with this particular employer that I need to not divulge. So I have to be very careful and cautious. Um, but if this doesn't resolve itself, you know, and again, ladies, I'm this happens. It goes both ways. Why is it why? And it's funny because that's a good one. I saw a social experiment probably about 6 months ago, and they flipped the tables. And a woman, an actress, was, I think, whatever. They were on the streets of London, New York City, somewhere, and they had flipped the roles of this whole idea of catcalling and sexual harassment, and where we have this predisposition to think that it's predominantly male, and to see what the reaction would be from men. And I think you'd be very surprised what the reactions were from men. Initially, they would laugh it off or slough it off, but they'd catch up with these guys and go, look, we were doing a social experiment. How did that really make you feel? I was scared. It's frightening. It's frightening. It's not pleasant. It's not a pleasant experience to be catcalled, whether you're a man doing it to a woman or a woman doing it to a man. We are divine, sovereign, soulful, compassionate, loving beings, and when we're being so disrespectful, primarily to ourselves in that behavior, that the person who is projecting in such a sexually aggressive way, they're expressing their wound, but they're doing it at our expense, and they're hurting people, they're frightening people, and for that, as a man, I remember from my own childhood wounding, I've always made very very conscious attempts to be very cautious about my interactions with the fairer sex, and again, it's a different situation. It's a different situation when you're in a loving, committed relationship and you're flirting with one another. We all, in a loving relationship, we want to feel wanted, needed, and desired. So anyway, I'm just thinking of in my past relationships. But to the to the guys, they don't want guys creeping on them, and you don't want women creeping on you. It's gross, man. It's gross and it's frightening. It's uncomfortable. Why would we want to do that to one another? Stop, if we look inward and see our own wounding, maybe and we address it and we correct it, maybe we'll stop doing this to one another. I don't know. Morning ramble. To my friends, and how grateful I am to have to express appreciation and gratitude for the female relationships that I have in my life, friendships, etc., and to gain a better understanding and perspective, and to clear away those caustic patterns of distortion about male, female, and what is and isn't acceptable, and to learn about myself and what's appropriate, and what feels good to me, truly feels good, not anyway. My time catcher is going to run out. Peace that surpasses all understanding. Ladies, I'm sorry. I truly am. I've experienced that firsthand myself, and it's scary. It's frightening. It's disgusting. It's and you shouldn't. I shouldn't. No one should have to endure that. And for all the times that we have endured that, let's let that be part of the old paradigm and something that's passing away. And treat each other with love, respect, and compassion. And anyone I encounter today and from here on out, as always, the golden rule: do unto others. Do unto others. And treat others the way that we truly would want to be treated, with love and respect and compassion. Peace that surpasses all understanding. Have a glorious day, and chat soon.